welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to a live stream that I honestly didn't think I'd ever be making, that I'd ever be doing. Today, Jose Mourinho has been appointed as the new head coach of Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, it's news that we all know by now. It's, as Matthew Hogg is saying, that picture of Jose Mourinho holding a Spurs shirt. It's something that's going to take quite a bit of getting used to. It is just a really strange situation, and one that 24 hours ago seemed that it was a whole world away. But here we are, again, less than 24 hours after Pochettino has been sacked. Jose Mourinho is the new manager of Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to be going through the statement that the club let out at about 6:30 this morning, announcing the appointment of Mourinho. I'm also going to be going through some of the things he said in his first interview. I'm going to be taking the key points of that. And we have some confirmation with regards to the backroom staff that he has appointed at the club. It's a new backroom staff as far as he's concerned. I'm sure we all know Rui Faria, who has been his main assistant manager throughout his entire career. He's had some memorable moments at Manchester United as well. I'll be going through that and just, I suppose, some of the key points that we do need to acknowledge with this new appointment. It is one that could potentially be an amazingly exciting one for Tottenham Hotspur. We've been told that he has been promised the money that he does want, and we know with Mourinho and money usually comes trophies. So hopefully that is something that can be, I suppose, emulated at Tottenham Hotspur. What he has done at previous clubs. And I'm seeing Gene is here talking about Luis Campos, who is someone that Tottenham are looking to get as their director of football. He's currently the sporting director at Lille. And potentially some news here that he has actually left Lille. I'm just looking to try and find it here. There's no confirmation just yet. But he is someone who has worked with Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid, and they're very good friends. And I think as soon as that appointment of Mourinho was made, people straight away started looking at Luis Campos as a potential sporting director or director of football, whatever it may be. And it does look as though an announcement is imminent with regards to that. In terms of what Luis Campos has done in the past, as I said, he worked with Mourinho at Real Madrid, and it's saying the Portuguese manager is very keen to hire the former Monaco sporting director. This is according to ESPN, who have heard from their sources that Tottenham and Mourinho are trying to get him into the club. The pair have remained in close contact with Mourinho regularly, watching Lille at Campos' request. After joining Monaco in 2013, Campos recruited Bernardo Silva, Tiémoué Bakayoko, Benjamin Mendy and Fabinho before selling them for large profits. All players who have ended up in the Premier League and are doing quite well, with the exception there of Bakayoko, who I think is actually back with Monaco on a loan deal now. Campos then joined Lille in 2016 and has been key in finding unknown gems, including Rafael Leao, Nicolas Pepe, who was sold for a massive profit over the summer to Arsenal, and Zeki Celik, whose arrival has coincided with the team returning to the Champions League. And he wouldn't be the only man coming in from Lille. As I mentioned, those backroom staff appointments that have already been confirmed. João Sacramento is the new assistant coach for Jose Mourinho. We knew that it was going to be a new backroom staff. He was never going to be bringing his previous team to the club. He's been talking about this break that he's had of about 11 months since being sacked by Manchester United. He has been spending this time developing a new philosophy and getting to know these new people that he was always going to bring to his next club as a manager. So this isn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. This is something that Mourinho has really thought through, and he has identified these men as the ideal ones to actually bring into the club. And I see Gene is here sending in a thing about Jose Mourinho instructs Tottenham to appoint Lille sporting director Luis Campos. Now, João Sacramento a deal has been agreed to take him away from. He's also at Lille, and he has had a fairly impressive CV for an assistant manager that is relatively unheard of. He finished second in the French League 1 last season with Lille, which is an outstanding achievement for them. Given there are some teams over there that you would expect to be doing better. PSG, of course, won it. Monaco did have a bad season last year, but teams like Saint-Etienne, Marseille, Lyon, Montpellier, even Lille did manage to finish above them. And having mentioned Monaco, João Sacramento was actually the assistant coach at Monaco when they won the French League back in, I think it was 2016. He was there under Leonardo Jardim, an amazing achievement for them. Again, given the strength of Paris Saint-Germain over in that league. Nuno Santos has been brought in as the goalkeeping coach. He'll be replacing, of course, Tony Jimenez, who, again, as those four the people, Pochettino, Perez, Jimenez and D'Agostino, were favourites at Tottenham. It is Santos who will replace Jimenez. Carlos Lalin has been brought in as the fitness coach. He's previously worked with Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, Manchester United and Real Madrid. And the final two members of that backroom staff are Ricardo Formazinho, who will be a tactical analyst, and Giovanni Chera, who will be a technical analyst. Now, they have both worked with Mourinho in the past as well. Giovanni Serra worked with him at Chelsea and Manchester United, so does know the Premier League very, very well. And it's good to see that this backroom staff seems to have been particularly handpicked by Jose Mourinho. It is something that is a bit encouraging. Cameron Williams saying, Matt, I know you're not the biggest fan of Mourinho. He will help us secure good defensive signings as under Poch. I don't think we really had a backbone. I wouldn't call myself the biggest fan of Mourinho, but as I have said, I will 100% support him at the club until he gives me a reason not to. I'm hoping that time never comes, but you know, it's not Mourinho's fault that things have ended so sourly with between Pochettino and Levy, and that a lot of the fan base will now turn against Daniel Levy more than they had in the past. None of that is Mourinho's fault, and he's coming in with a job to do. And I was encouraged by the interview that he gave, his first interview at the club, and I know it's obviously going to be very it's edited and they're only going to put out the things that they want the fans to hear, but just I suppose a quick run through what he said. It was a very powerful opening to that interview. He said, I couldn't be happier, and if I was not as happy as I am, I wouldn't be here. What can I promise? Passion for my job, but also passion for my club. And he was really emphasising my club, our club, and all that throughout the interview. It's a privilege when a manager goes to a club and feels that happiness in relation to the squad that he is going to have. I really like this squad. Now, he was keen to emphasise the fact that he isn't just saying this because he is now the manager or the head coach of Tottenham Hotspur. He has been saying this throughout the past. He's been saying it in his punditry roles, and even towards the end of his time as manager at Chelsea and throughout his reign at Manchester United. He did often compliment the team that Tottenham did have in place and the work that was being done at the club, and he is hoping to improve that now. He said playing at White Hart Lane was always a special moment in his season. He said it was hard but beautiful, and he always went there with passion and knew just, I suppose, what it meant, that stadium. Now, one of the biggest concerns a lot of fans, including myself, will be having about the appointment of Mourinho is, youth has been a very key part of Tottenham's development over the last 5 years. It's something that Pochettino really had a desire to bring into the team. And if you look at players like Dele Alli and Harry Winks, and maybe a bit more recently Troy Parrott, not to the extent that we would have liked, but he really did put a real trust into the youth. Now, Mourinho has been known to kind of put youth to the side and just spend money and bring in as many players as he can. And there have been the development of some players that has been hindered by his presence at the club. Back in 2016 or 2017 when he was at Manchester United, Frank de Boer was someone who, I think it was just after he left Crystal Palace, he was someone who mentioned this, and he said Marcus Rashford is a player that is obviously younger at the time, has a really bright future. It's just a pity that Mourinho is his manager. Mourinho obviously snapped back at that, but in this interview he did say every manager likes youth, and there's not one manager in the world that doesn't like to bring young players into his side, and he included himself in that. And he said, the main problem with regards to his previous clubs and him not being able to give youth a chance has been the system that has been in place at those clubs. Now, that did change a bit at Manchester United, so I imagine that is more aimed at Inter Milan, Real Madrid and Chelsea, who are clubs who do they have the money to go out and buy players, and they don't often depend on their younger players. But if you're looking at United, there are players like Scott McTominay, who got his first chance in that team under Mourinho and has now gone on to be one of Manchester United's best players this season. And Marcus Rashford also given a chance under Mourinho too. But Mourinho said, I look to our history and see that the academy is always given the talent that the first team needs. And even in his brief statement when the appointment was announced, he did say he's looking forward to working with the squad and the academy. Now, this new philosophy that he's been talking about over the last couple of weeks that he has developed over his time out could be one that is emphasised or does focus on youth. And I would hope as well that it does involve a new style of play, because he likes to sit back, park the bus and catch teams on the counter-attack. That's not what we want to see at Tottenham. That's not what we have seen for the last 5 years. We like that free-flowing attacking football that we had up until maybe January. So hopefully this new thing that Mourinho is bringing in is going to include these things that have made us fall back in love with this football club. Now, he obviously had to mention the stadium and the training ground that is in place. He said to call the stadium beautiful is being humble. And it is, without a doubt, the best stadium in the world, and it's something that he, now as manager or as head coach of our football club, is very proud of. And he spoke about the training ground being second to none. And you can only really compare it to NFL training grounds over in America, which obviously is a massive compliment. There's a lot more money in that sport, and some of the facilities that they do have over there are absolutely immense. He said that this training ground cannot be compared to any in Europe. He's been in some of the best places. Of course, he's worked with Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Manchester United, Chelsea, and I believe he spent some time at Barcelona as well, if I'm not mistaken, under Pep Guardiola. Or the other way around. I think he spent some time at Barcelona regardless. And he said you can compare the Tottenham's training ground to any. Tottenham's is second to none, which obviously is something that we would have known, but it's great to hear it from him. Speaking about our current position, he said we don't belong in 14th. We don't belong where we are in the league, and he's going to try everything he can to turn that form around. He said at the end of the season we're going to be in a different position, and it's going to be higher up the table. Now the quote that we remember from Pochettino's first interview as a Tottenham manager was, he said, "I'm going to do everything in my power to make you proud of this football club again," and that obviously at the time for us was something that we didn't really take too seriously. He was an unheard of manager, but it showed what he wanted to do with the club. It showed his ambition. It showed what he was looking to do, and it wasn't just make things right now. It was a long-term future goal. What Jose Mourinho had to say was very, very different. We should just play match after match. The next match we want to win, and that's the same about the next and the next and the next match until the last. So unsurprisingly, Mourinho looking to the immediate future at the moment, not getting too caught up in the future, the long-term future, which I don't imagine he ever will. You know, he's a short-term manager. He's never really spent more than 3 or 4 years at a club, which is kind of my biggest grievance with this appointment. But look, if he's going to get the money, we've heard that from Sky Sports, Daniel Levy has promised him the money, but it's just he's not a long-term solution, and everything that Pochettino has built at this club, and it's still really kind of surprising and confusing to be talking about this Pochettino being history now. He's gone. It's something that hasn't quite sunk in yet, but everything that he has built at the club could potentially be undone by Jose Mourinho. Even if it does bring us 2 or 3 trophies, the long term mightn't be good enough now. And Mourinho ended his interview saying, "I look forward to the challenge and the responsibility to bring happiness to everyone that loves the club." So it was a different interview to what I was expecting, but there were some encouraging things. But also that comment about him saying the next match is the most important is a bit worrying. Now Matthew Hogg saying, "Who do you think we will sign?" So the initial rumours that have been coming out are ones that seem to be very closely linked to the ones that were there in the summer. There was a report, I think it was by The Independent, I'm not entirely sure though, and it looks as though Mourinho wants Paulo Dybala, Bruno Fernandes and Nathan Ake over the summer. Now we know Dybala and Fernandes are 2 players that were very keen to join Tottenham in the summer, and 2 deals that were actually nearly completed. The Dybala one obviously a whole lot closer than Fernandes. Now with the way the season has gone, it did feel as though those 2 players would kind of turn their attentions elsewhere and look for a bigger move in the continent. But with Jose Mourinho now at the club and the money that he has been promised, perhaps this is the man that can attract these kind of players to our club, because we know he is one of the biggest in the world, and he has attracted some massive players in the past. So hopefully he can get them over the line. In terms of Nathan Ake, I do think that's a bit of a strange one. If I'm not mistaken, he did have some time with Nathan Ake at Chelsea and never gave him a chance. One of the biggest criticisms of him at Chelsea was not giving chances to players like Romelu Lukaku, Nathan Ake. I think Kevin De Bruyne, Mohamed Salah might have been in there as well. But he's apparently keen to bring Ake to Tottenham now. Bruno Fernandes is a real possibility, Will L says, and obviously that Portuguese link is going to be a big thing if Bruno Fernandes is someone that Mourinho does want to bring to the club. Workshop YS saying, but clearly Mourinho said those positive comments so he could integrate himself with Levy and take over, or ingratiate himself with Levy and take over. It's the kind of subtle and weaselish things he does, which I don't think I would say that now. I mean, he does seem to be very excited about this job. In terms of the deal actually getting done, it was super agent Pini Zahavi who did most of the work for Jose Mourinho. So Zahavi, he was the man that first brought Mourinho back to England back in 2004. He met with Roman Abramovich and convinced him to bring Jose Mourinho to the club. He's probably most known for being the man behind that deal that brought Neymar to PSG for £200 million a couple of years back. But he's been in talks with Daniel Levy for about 3 weeks now. It started after the 1-1 draw with Watford at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And from what we've heard, Zahavi was spent all this time convincing Daniel Levy that Jose Mourinho was the right man for Tottenham Hotspur. Now, that personally for me is something that I'm not happy with, and it is really concerning because welcome Alexander Hilton to the stream, because ideally what you'd want in this situation is for Daniel Levy to find the candidate that he wants and to go out and to convince him that Tottenham is the right club for him. I don't think it's encouraging that Levy has been convinced by Pinny Zahavi that Jose Mourinho is the right man, because I suppose, as Workshop said there a second ago, there are some weaselish things that these people do. So there might have been a lot of lying in there by Zahavi, but I mean, the reports are saying that Jose Mourinho has become the second highest paid manager in world football now, and undoubtedly there could have been anything up to 20 million paid out to Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff in order to get them out of the club. So this could end up being a really, really expensive deal for Daniel Levy, which is not something that he would do lightly. So maybe he has been really, really convinced by this. And before I go on any further, if you are enjoying the stream, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It'll really help me. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell. I do these streams every so often. I do match previews, reviews, breaking news videos and stuff as well. Matthew Hogg saying, I think he should sign Rashford. I don't think that would be a good signing for us at the moment, but even if it was someone that we were looking into, he's a United fan. I think he's there for the long term. Matthew Hogg saying, I feel sorry for Ryan Sessegnon and Jack Clarke. Now, that is something I was thinking about as well. These young players who have come to the club, knowing just how much the young players do get a chance, and both of them mentioned working with Mauricio Pochettino was something that that was a key part of their decision to join Tottenham. Now, Ryan Sessegnon obviously has had a chance to work with him, not as much as he would have liked to, but Jack Clarke, you have to wonder what he's thinking now. I know it is still obviously a big move for him coming to Tottenham from Leeds, even though it is a different manager, but I think you do also have to recognise that while they will probably regret that they didn't have enough time with Mauricio Pochettino, they now play for one of the biggest managers, one of the most successful managers in world football, and that is something that I've kind of been getting into my head today. Even though it's not the appointment that I would have wanted, and it's not, I suppose if I was given the choice, it's not the appointment that I would have made, but it's a statement. It's a massive statement. Like if you go back to when Andre Villas-Boas was sacked in 2014, and I think Jose Mourinho had just returned to Chelsea, and he won the league the next season, I think. But if someone had told you 5 years ago that this is Pochettino, he'll be sacked in 5.5 years and he'll appoint Jose Mourinho, no one would have believed it. And it's crazy to think that the club is now in this position, and it is a massive statement. But unfortunately, I don't think Jose Mourinho is quite the manager that he was before. Hopefully this new philosophy that he has brought together might change that, but look, only time will tell. And that's the really annoying thing about this. It's so hard to predict what will actually happen at this club, because we know how unpredictable Jose Mourinho is, but we also know how unpredictable Daniel Levy is. And will Mourinho get the money, and if he does, how will he spend it? Hopefully we can get Luis Campos in, and as Gina says, that does look to be a done deal. But we're just I suppose we'll be waiting official confirmation from the club on their site, and that doesn't seem to have come through just yet. Ian Richardson saying, Matt, I'm anxious to know what Mourinho's financial situation was like before signing. Was he in serious debt? If not, it bodes well. You think he'd only sign if given assurances that we'll spend. If he was in financial trouble, perhaps he said to himself, I'll let Levy mess me around for a season or two while I get paid. As Gina said, I'm not entirely sure about this, but his settlement for Manchester United was over £16 million. It takes a while to spend that. I truly don't think there's anything like that within Jose Mourinho's decision to come to the club. He's been working with Sky Sports for the last couple of months, last couple of weeks as well, and I'm sure he'll be paid well for that. He's also been doing some punditry work around the world, so I can't imagine financial problems would have been any sort of a thing for him. But he was interviewed, he did a kind of mini documentary with Sky Sports back in August, where they kind of followed him around for a day, and he, in that interview, I remember watching it back then, I never thought we'd be in this situation where his next club was Tottenham, but he looked absolutely desperate to get back into football, and you could see the love he has for the sport. And he said then, just as he said today, he's not just going to take a job for the sake of taking a job. At that point he had offers from around the world, I think he mentioned China as a country whose teams are particularly interested in him. But he said he was going to wait for the right offer, and the one that made him feel something, and the one that ultimately that he has gotten today. He said, what was it he said? I couldn't be happier, and if I was not as happy as I am, I wouldn't be here. So this genuinely feels like a thing he is excited about. Even as he said, he has been talking about this squad as a really exciting team, a really talented team over the last few years. And from, again, some of the lines we're hearing from the different news outlets, he's very excited about working with the squad, and he thinks it has underachieved. Most people have been saying in the last couple of years that this team has overachieved under Pochettino, but Mourinho is the opposite. He thinks it's underachieved, and there's a whole lot of potential in this squad. Delboy saying, tired of being the nearly men. I want to see a team with a backbone and one we can rely on for once. Maybe Mourinho can be the man to bring that to us. And no matter how many times I say it, it still doesn't feel real that Jose Mourinho is the head coach at Tottenham. It's really strange. Welcome Luvo to the stream. Kyle King saying, Matt, what do you think about relegation? Absolutely not going to happen. Even if we kept Pochettino, it's almost impossible. It's not going to happen to us. Matthew Hogg saying, Bruno, yes. Dybala, no way. I think Dybala is a possibility, because we know he does want to. Over the summer, he didn't want to leave Juventus, but it did seem likely that he would have to, because Maurizio Sarri wasn't willing to give him the game time that he wanted. Now, I'm not entirely sure how that's going for him this season, because it's something I've kind of forgotten about. With the way we've been playing, I didn't expect any interest there from Dybala in joining Tottenham. But I mean, it's Jose Mourinho at the end of the day, and I mean, he can attract names, and it's already happening, bringing these people in from various clubs around the world. Of course, Luis Campos potentially in João Sacramento from Lille, and Nuno Santos, Carlos Lalin, Ricardo Formazinho, and Giovanni Cherra. Names will take a while to get getting used to, but he's attracted these from clubs all around the world, and I mean, that's not something that's easily done. Ian Richardson saying, about the 16 million, that's true, mate, but men with gambling problems can blow through 16 million faster than you think. I can't imagine Mourinho would fall into that category, but I really don't think financial problems had anything to do with his decision. Gina saying he had some trouble getting established talent to Man United, though. A lot of players see him as arrogant. I think that United job, it may have tarnished his reputation a bit, but I do think it was an outlier within his career so far. Even though he did actually win the treble there in his second season, and he finished second with 81 points behind that fantastic Manchester City team. Even with the situation he was dealt with there, he did way beyond what anyone expected. And when he said finishing second with that Manchester United team was the greatest achievement of his career, everybody laughed at him and thought he's officially lost it, he's done now. But looking at what that United team has done since then, you have to realise that he was spot on. And if he can do that with that United team, if he can just get this Tottenham team together for the season, obviously we're not gonna win the league this season. There's no doubt about that. But we're out of the Carabao Cup. But the FA Cup is still there. The Champions League is still there. And while it doesn't seem likely that we will win a trophy, if he can do what he has done at clubs in the past, I would not put it past him. Usually it is the second season where he does win his trophies, but I mean, an FA Cup this year, and I wouldn't say it's worth making the change from Pochettino to Mourinho, but it really bodes well for the year ahead. And maybe it is a bit unfortunate that all this outstanding time that we had with Mauricio Pochettino and now Mourinho coming in, maybe it's bad that this has happened in a period where Liverpool and Manchester City are just doing so well. It's going to be a lot harder to come by trophies, because usually they bounce around quite a bit. But it does seem as though it may be the two of them dominating the domestic trophies for a while. Maybe even European trophies. Of course, Liverpool won it last year. They were in the final the year before. But even if they don't, there's the usual suspects, Barcelona and Real Madrid, Bayern Munich a bit as well, who can win those trophies. So it is a very difficult time to get trophies on the board. But this could be the man that could do that for us. Alexander Hilton saying we need a centre-back, right-back and a left-back. We need a lot more than that at the moment, but that is true. Arato saying, couldn't that 12.5 million levies given to Poch have been used to pay Dybala's image rights? I wouldn't say so, because you have to remember that Dybala deal included an extra £64.4 million on top of it. It wasn't just 12.5 that we needed. Musa Sissoko, I hope you're the real one, saying who would you have gotten in? It's a tough decision. I mean, I can't really pick one manager that I would have ideally taken, but I would have taken a manager who could continue the work that Pochettino has done. We know Julian Nagelsmann was on the initial shortlist that Daniel Levy had made, along with Massimiliano Allegri and Carlo Ancelotti. Now, I do think both of those would have been better to bring in than Jose Mourinho, and also looking at people like Eric Ten Hag, Eddie Howe, Nuno Espirito Santo. I would have gone with continuing the philosophy that has gotten us to where we are now, but obviously Levy has opted for kind of a more swift solution to that. But yeah, I can't pick one in particular, but I would have gone for one of the ones that I mentioned there. Gina saying the sacking of Poch and appointment of Mourinho has evidently been going on for a month or so now, maybe longer. As such, I would expect to see the hierarchy involved in decision making. Do you feel Joe Lewis has anything to do with Mourinho? It does seem to be about 3 weeks that this has been going on. It was when Pini Zahavi was first in contact with Daniel Levy. Now the face-to-face meetings with Mourinho didn't start until actually this week, so once the two of them met, it was a very swift thing getting this done. I don't know really if Joe Lewis would have had anything to do with it. It does seem to be Daniel Levy is the one who does the majority of the things at the club. Obviously the chairman, Enix's representative within all of this. I wouldn't really know if Joe Lewis had much to do with that. But I'm sure there would have been something from the obviously larger company to allow Levy to spend that kind of money on sacking Pochettino and giving the wage to Mourinho that we are apparently hearing he is earning now. Kyle King saying, if we've got all this money, why not Tuchel from PSG? I think it would be very hard to pry him away from them now. They're obviously winning all the trophies in France every year. Actually, Barry, I think they lost the French, the Coupe de Ligue final last season. Gina saying, I feel the personality of Mourinho might be a play to oust Levy, which I suppose is an interesting point. Alexander saying, Jose will do amazingly here, and saying we'll win the FA Cup and the top four. If we get the top four this year, that could be, I'd class that as a success and as a good season because of how poorly it started. An FA Cup in the top four, I take that for this season right now. Now see a few of you mentioning Gareth Bale there. Carlos saying apparently Gareth Bale is going to be his first signing. I haven't heard anything about that just yet. As I mentioned, the only real players that I've seen mentioned are Paulo Dybala, Bruno Fernandes and Nathan Ake. Now we know Bale is having a very strange time at Real Madrid at the moment. He was almost forced out of the club by Zinedine Zidane during the summer, and I'm sure you've all seen the picture of him playing for Wales last night after they qualified for Euro 2020. He was holding up a flag that said Wales, Golf, Madrid in that order. So I can't imagine he has much time left at Real Madrid. He was so close to joining, I think it was Guangzhou Evergrande or maybe Jiangsu Suning in China over the summer. It feels as though his time at Real Madrid is limited, even though he has said himself he would happily see out his 3-year contract, take his £600,000 a week and play golf. And that's going to be a lot of money to bring into the club, not only with a transfer fee, but those wages are going to be massive. I'm not sure he is someone that we'll be looking into now. This is Delboy saying, this is uneducated for me, but why is this rumour director of football so good? Not sure what his track record is. Why is it such a positive? I'm not entirely sure just how good his past is, but he's worked with Mourinho at Real Madrid, which obviously is a big role to have. He must be doing something right. And as I was saying a while ago, ESPN mentioned some of those players that he did find who've gone on to do so well. Bernardo Silva, Benjamin Mendy, Timu Bakayoko, and Nicolas Pepe as well. He seems to be good at what he does, and I mean, if Mourinho is this keen to get him in, and if of course he has had this role at Real Madrid in the past, he must be good at it. So I suppose I'm with you in saying that I'm not entirely sure just what it means, but it's, for me, I'm just seeing it as encouraging that he has in the past discovered these players, but also he is so keen, Mourinho is so keen to have him at the club. Amy P saying, can Mourinho become a long-term manager at Tottenham? He's never worked at this kind of a club before. I don't think Mourinho will ever be a long-term manager at any club, which is again why I'm a bit concerned with this appointment. But it's going to be a very different thing for him. As you say, he's never worked at this kind of a club before. Perhaps Porto could be someone that was maybe compared to us when he was there in the early 2000s. But that was his very first managerial role, and he's been through so much since then, and he's won so much, and he's spent so much money. It's going to be very strange for him coming back to a club like this. I'd say we are ahead of Porto, where they were back then. And he did win Champions League with them, so who knows. Craig Bowler saying, we shall see if Poch had lost the change room or not. If the contract rebels suddenly sign a new deal, it shows there was problems between Poch and some players, which is a great point. That does seem to be the main reason behind the board's decision to sack Mauricio Pochettino. They said there was a developing toxicity within the changing room that I don't know if they said it was because of Pochettino or they felt he couldn't repair it. But that is why one of the main reasons why they did decide to sack him. Now, Christian Eriksen, according to BT in Denmark, has decided today that he wants to leave in January. He's not willing to wait until the summer. He doesn't want to work with Jose Mourinho, and based on some comments Jose Mourinho made last year, I don't think he'll want to work with Christian Eriksen either. Now, he was speaking, I think it was actually towards the end of last season, and I'm not sure if it was with regards to the particular situation at Tottenham, or if it was in general talking about players who were running down their contracts. Now, he said, I don't like to keep players that don't want to stay at the club. I think it is always really difficult. I'm not thinking about the economical perspective, I mean from a motivational point of view. And he went on to say it's very difficult when there's a player who has a different dream to try and motivate him on the dream that everybody else has at this club. And even going back to when he was at Chelsea, they had Ian Robin there. They didn't need money, they didn't need anything, and he sold him to Real Madrid simply because the player wanted to go. So, you know, if it was because of Mauricio Pochettino, we may see players like Alderweireld, Vertonghen and Eriksen change their mind and want to stay at the club. But if they don't, I imagine they'll be gone in January. I don't think he'll wait around till the summer, and obviously not getting any sort of a transfer fee, because it will be for free. But I imagine we will find out very, very quickly about these players. I don't think he'll play them. It's a very different philosophy to what Mauricio Pochettino employed in this sort of situation. Pochettino, something that did frustrate me to some extent. He said he doesn't care about the situations off the pitch. What he cares is what he sees on the pitch, and he wasn't going to avoid playing players because their contract was running out or because they wanted to leave the club and that. So a very, very different approach to that from Jose Mourinho. Arato99 saying, I'll take Bale, but he isn't going to track back as Jose will demand of his wingers. Matthew Hogg mentioning Andre Onana, the current Ajax goalkeeper, as a potential signing for us. Genus saying, I would have had Allegri. Craig Bowler saying, Bale can't play consistently, he wouldn't be worth the money. That is, he has suffered from injuries quite a bit over the last few years. Rob Wallace saying, I don't like the fact that Jose will get a buying fund straight away, but Poch had to wait and it was minimal. And that is something that I said in my reaction video to this. Jose Mourinho has been promised the funds, and I just wonder why Pochettino wasn't given those funds. Now, the summer just gone was obviously the first summer that he actually had that sort of money. It was his fifth in charge, and this is kind of where the rift started. It was closer to the Champions League semi-final when this relationship started to break down a bit. When Pochettino made those infamous comments saying that if he did win the Champions League with Tottenham, he would leave the club, and that was kind of the first moment where the board started to get a bit frustrated with him. And that moved on into the summer with Pochettino's demeanour. You know, he was really downbeat. He was frustrated, snapping at journalists and all that, and the club grew increasingly frustrated with him. And then when it got towards the end of the transfer window, and we'd gotten in players like Ndombele, and the Lo Celso deal was basically done. Daniel Levy felt as though Pochettino got the players that he needed, but Pochettino thought he hadn't got the players that he wanted. That was a lot to do with the lack of departures at the club. We've heard from Daniel Levy over the last couple of months that there was a lot of players he tried to get out of the club, but the interest simply wasn't there. So there's a lot of things that really have caused this to happen, and the main one does seem to be transfers, unfortunately. But it does look as though that could change with Mourinho, as Rob says. Arato99 saying, what kind of money do we think Jose was promised in order to improve the squad? Can't imagine him coming to Spurs if he wasn't given a decent budget. Gina saying £500 million over 3 years would do it. I don't think it would be anywhere near the amount of money that he did have in the past with obviously those teams, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Manchester United, Chelsea. But I think it would be a lot more money than we've ever seen Tottenham invest in a year, because, you know, we've just had a net spend of over 100 million in the summer just gone, and that's probably going to be replicated next summer. And January is a time where it is quite difficult to buy big, but it's going to take a lot of money in order to do that. And I'm sure there would have had to have been quite a bit of money promised to Jose Mourinho. I'm talking maybe 200 million, 300 million over the two windows. I wouldn't say just in January, but I imagine there would have been a lot of money promised to him to get this deal over the line. Todd Dunstan saying, Poch taught us to dare, Jose will show us how to do. I love that one, to dare is to do, obviously the motto of the club. Hopefully he can. Mansa saying, I don't see Jose allowing Kane to go, he'll attract players and he'll be given money. And this has been another thing that we've really been talking about, which players are going to leave the club now. Kind of reading through the posts on social media from the players reacting to the news that Mauricio Pochettino was sacked. Dele Alli, his post was the only one that really seemed to have an air of wanting to join up with Pochettino somewhere else, where he said, obviously I can't thank you enough. You've done so much for me. I hope to see you again, my friend. So maybe Dele Alli is someone who could move on. But I do feel as though there's a lot of players at the club who, have been saying for so long. You're looking at, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris maybe in there, Jan Vertonghen to some extent, if he still is as devoted to this club as we hope he is. I think they would quickly realise that they're not in love with Tottenham Hotspur, but they're in love with the team and the atmosphere and everything that Pochettino had built there. Other players like Harry Winks, Tottenham through and through. Heung-min Son seems to be really, really happy. I imagine he'd be devastated by this news as well. But it's kind of hard to predict which players will actually see this period through. And even just, it's not which ones will stay, but it's which ones Mourinho will be willing to hold on to. Because he's been talking a lot about the problems that we've had in the last few years, and there's no doubt the players are at the forefront of that. But look, again, only time will tell. It's such a confusing time. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. Ian Richardson saying, to be fair, if I were Jose, I wouldn't believe any word that's dripped out of Levy's mouth regarding financial backing in the transfer window unless there's a minimum spend clause in his contract. I see Mourinho has never dealt with Levy at this level, and obviously he would have heard in the past all the things that have been frustrating Tottenham managers about Daniel Levy, and maybe he'd know a bit more about us, all these inside channels within football. But I don't think he would go into negotiations with Daniel Levy if he wasn't going to believe what he was going to say personally. But I do think as though there will be money there in January, because there has to be money there in January. Otherwise, this will not be worth it. There's absolutely no point in ripping the core of this team apart, in ripping out this manager, this coaching staff, this togetherness in the club that has brought us from a team playing Anderlecht in the Champions League, in the Europa League, to a Champions League final. It is absolutely pointless and futile ripping that apart if you're going to bring in someone like Mourinho, who has in the past created the most toxic dressing rooms we've seen in Premier League history. If you're not going to give him the money that he, not only that he wants, but that he needs to provide the trophies that we want. And that's the only thing that we've been missing in the last 5 years at this club, is a trophy. And this is a man who can provide it to us, and Daniel Levy quite simply needs to give him the money. And it looks as though he will. But again, it's hard to 100% trust it, both because it is coming through unofficial channels with Sky Sports News, but also it's Daniel Levy. Bradley Coombs saying we should be celebrating, we have a natural born winner. Again, as I said, it is a statement, and he's a serial winner, and hopefully he can replicate that at Tottenham. I was watching the We Are Tottenham TV reaction to this video yesterday, and they were mentioning that Mourinho wins everywhere he goes, with a joke, and said he's never been at Tottenham before, which is as kind of funny as it is also a true statement. Alexander Hilton saying, what do you think of the Ireland match? Very disappointing, to be honest. That game against Denmark on Tuesday, on Monday, was the best I've ever seen the Republic of Ireland play, and it was just a small lapse in concentration from Shane Duffy that allowed Denmark in to take the lead, and we got the equaliser, but unfortunately we couldn't get it over the line. And it was kind of typical. We played so well, and it's the one game that we couldn't win. Christian Eriksen, of course, getting an assist in that, and he played quite well as well. Something I don't think I've ever seen from him in a Tottenham jersey, chasing down every single ball. You could see how much it meant to him. But yeah, we have Slovakia now in a playoff in March, and hopefully we can get something there. Hans saying, I think this is an interesting situation, missing this season in the EPL. Craig Bowler saying, I can see Levy paying all that money to get Mourinho and then not giving him what he needs to build a winning team. And I'm just hoping, because it has cost Daniel Levy so much to get this done in terms of compensation paid to Pochettino alone, which is believed to be in and around £12.5 million, but given that he had 3 years left in his contract, it could be anything up to £24 million. But also having to pay compensation to Jesus Perez, Tony Jimenez and Miguel D'Agostino, and then the money bringing in Jose Mourinho. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for any club, but for Daniel Levy as well. If he's going to do this, he has to go all out at it. He can't just go halfway and say, we've Mourinho, let's win something. He needs to give him the money. Otherwise, as I said, this is completely futile and is completely worthless, and we'll be back to where we were before Pochettino ever stepped foot in our club. Mansa saying, we don't have a winning mentality at Spurs. We're used to losing. Hopefully Jose changes that, as he has a winning mentality. The Liga video saying, do you think he will try to implement a 4-3-3? If so, how will he line up? Again, completely unpredictable. He's played different formations at different clubs in the past. I think we will see a change to this 4-2-3-1, which you've loved over the last few years. But again, talking about this, his new philosophy that he's developed over the summer, we could see absolutely anything from him. And it is exciting, but it is worrying as well. It's interesting to see what will happen. Gavin Norris, welcome, saying, "Hey Matt, I was quite sceptical at first. However, I think this is a significant moment for Spurs. The fact we can now appoint someone like Jose confirms to the world that we are now an elite club." And this is an opinion that I've been seeing quite a bit on Twitter. It's that given this appointment, like it or not, Tottenham are now one of the big clubs in Europe because we have a manager like Jose Mourinho who, as we're hearing, will get the money, and with that will come the players. So while this is a really, really heartbreaking couple of 24 hours, just over 24 hours now, losing Pochettino is something that the majority of our fans are absolutely devastated and heartbroken by, and it's going to take a while getting used to. But maybe this is the ruthless thing that we needed to see from Daniel Levy, bringing in someone like Jose Mourinho to bring us to that next level. And I hope to God it is, but it might not be. It might be. Time will tell. Gutted Poch was sacked, but I gotta admit Mourinho is huge. This whole thing is fascinating, and it is. It's like I'm really struggling to kind of get my head around this. It's so strange that it might actually be genius, and hopefully it is. But I mean, Jose Mourinho at Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, someone who only in 2015 said out of loyalty to Chelsea fans he would never ever even consider coaching Tottenham Hotspur, and now he's saying he's the happiest he's ever been in an appointment in his career. It is a really, really fascinating one. Bradley Coombs saying, "I love that we have Mourinho, but it's obviously only a short-term fix with him only on a 3-year deal. So what happens after the 3 years are up?" Obviously, there is the potential there to sign a new deal, but in the past, that kind of giving him a long-term contract has kind of been the thing that has given him license to relax and in the end fail. It was at United he was given a 5-year contract when things started to fall apart there. He's not a long-term fix with whatever happens. I mean, we could give him a 15-year contract tomorrow, and I still just wouldn't believe that he is a long-term fix because he's never spent a long time at a club. And he goes in, he wins trophies, he leaves, he goes somewhere else, he wins trophies, he leaves. It's just what he does. Hopefully he can continue that here. Mansa saying Jose said finishing second with Man United was his greatest achievement, and as I was mentioning, he may have been right. David Webb saying, "Do you think Dyer will be a regular starter?" Dyer is someone who could really benefit from this appointment of Mourinho. Mourinho, when he was at Man United, he was interested in signing Eric Dyer, but Dyer is also the kind of player that the kind of style that he does have is similar to what Mourinho likes. Looking at players like Marwan Fellaini and Nemanja Matic, who he did use quite a bit at Manchester United. It could be a style of player that really does benefit from this, but then that does beg the question, what's going to happen with Ndombele, Winks and Sissoko, who we have seen as our best midfielders in that position this season. Mansa saying, "So taking Spurs to a title will be his greatest achievement." It absolutely would be, even if he is given a bit of money. If he does win a Premier League title with his team, with his club, I suppose it would be amazing. Mansa saying, I believe he knows this and wants that Premier League title with Tottenham on his CV. Luvo saying, "I feel Levy didn't see Poch as a winning coach, a winner. Maybe that's why he didn't back him. He wasn't confident and didn't fully trust Poch. Backing Mourinho means he has full confidence in him." And look, of course, this was the first summer where Pochettino was given quite a bit of money to spend, and it didn't pay off yet, I suppose, for Tottenham. But Daniel Levy, we know how impatient he is, and for him giving Pochettino this amount of money, it was something I imagine he would have struggled with. I mean, when Paul Mitchell left the club, I think it was last year or the year before, to go to RB Leipzig, it wasn't a surprise that it was when he left we went through that 500 days without signing a player. Mitchell was he was obviously the head of recruitment for Pochettino, and he is the man who found a lot of these players that Pochettino has worked so well with. So it took a while for Levy to kind of gain that trust in Pochettino to go out and buy the players that he wanted. And it's been 3 months now, and there hasn't been any sort of a return. If any, obviously there's been a massive decline in what the team is showing. So, I mean, it's annoying that with Levy, because I think it's because he waited that extra year, that it didn't work out as well as he would have wanted. It's that 1 year when we spent that extra couple of months at Wembley when we didn't sign a player, and when things just kind of stood still for about a year. That's where it all seems to have fallen apart for us, unfortunately. And Levy just left it a bit too late to give Pochettino that money, and it hasn't worked out for us. Mansa saying, "This is Jose's last chance in the Prem. Tottenham will be his greatest achievement if he succeeds." Workshop saying, it's exactly those kind of contradictory comments, Chelsea versus Tottenham, he says, that makes him untruthful. He would say anything to get what he wants. That anyone believes him is sad. I suppose is a good point. Bradley saying, Matt, do you think bringing in Mourinho will make players stay, such as Eriksen, Toby, Rose, Vertonghen? It seems though any small hopes we had of keeping hold of Christian Eriksen, I personally didn't. I personally do want him to go. But it does feel as though that's over now, both in terms of BT Denmark, who are reporting today that Christian Eriksen has decided he will leave the club in January. He had previously been expected to see out this season and leave for free next summer, but it appears now as though the player himself has decided he will leave in January in order to just get out as quickly as possible. And just running over those comments Jose Mourinho made towards the end of last season, talking about kind of players who do want to leave a club. He said, talking about himself, I don't like to keep players that don't want to stay at the club. I think it is always really difficult. I'm not thinking about the economical perspective. I mean from a motivational point of view. So I imagine if those players, if it is the fact that they wanted to leave Tottenham, they would be gone. If it is a falling out with Pochettino, there is a chance for them to stay. But we're never going to know just what the problem was over the last couple of months. But it all depends on whether their grievances were with Tottenham or Mauricio Pochettino, unfortunately. Mansa saying, being honest with Poch, I love the man unconditionally. However, his tactical decision making was terrible at times. He would not change tactics, bringing on subs with a few minutes remaining. He did make mistakes, and there's no doubt about that. He did make mistakes, and they have cost him. The few mistakes that he has made ultimately just has cost him. He had blind faith in the players, which is a good point there from Mansa as well. Will L is saying, this is the reality of the sport now. Get the best manager available for 2 or 3 years, then we go again. And it's a really fickle sport, and it's really unfair on managers at times. Like looking at Claudio Ranieri, who in 2016 won the league with Leicester and was gone before the end of the year. Roberto Di Matteo, even before that, won the Champions League with Chelsea, and he was gone before the next season even got up and running. It's just, history isn't a thing anymore. It's what's happening now is the key, and unfortunately Mauricio Pochettino was just underperforming. And I mean, I'm still absolutely gutted that he's gone. It's, every single Tottenham fan, even the ones who were calling for him to be sacked this season, were calling for this change to be made, every single Tottenham fan absolutely loves that man from what he has done at this club in the last 5.5 years. And I mean, I just feel so bad for him right now. The loyalty that he did show to this club over the last 5.5 years, turning down offers from Real Madrid and Man United, not just once. I can't imagine what he's going through personally now. I mean, after that Champions League final, he said he stayed in his bedroom for 10 days and just cried. I imagine it's a whole lot worse for him now, and it's going to be a while before we'll hear from him. I mean, we do know that he won't be taking a role with an English club for his next post. That Bayern Munich one is still available, and Hassan Salihamidzic had said that their current caretaker manager will be there until at least Christmas. So perhaps that does give Pochettino the month and a half rest that he might need before stepping into a new role. But it's really upsetting just what he's going to have to deal with now. And again, I think it was We Are Tottenham TV making the point that it's going to be so hard for Pochettino to deal with the fact not only that he's gone, but that he never won a trophy at Tottenham Hotspur. And look, I know his philosophy was that trophies isn't the be all and end all. It's being the best that he could possibly be and getting the best out of that squad and improving day by day by day by day is what he wanted. But deep down he needed a trophy at this club and he didn't get it. And as We Are Tottenham TV put it so perfectly, it's going to be really hard for him to reconcile with that fact. But look, it is what it is, and we are going to have to just not forget about him, but we're just going to have to move on, and it's going to be incredibly difficult. I mean, personally, I did not see this coming. I thought after the Sheffield United game, kind of the immediate aftermath, it was just pure frustration. I thought, maybe it is time for him to go. He won't be there for the West Ham game. Having given it a bit of thought and really kind of considered the situation, I thought, give him the January transfer window, give him a chance to turn this around. But it's just crazy that this has actually happened and he is gone. David Webb saying, Jose says he's excited about the young talent we have. Who do you think he's referring to? I imagine it would be players like Troy Parrott, who was already breaking into the Tottenham and Ireland team. Ryan Sessegnon obviously just brought in from Fulham. someone who's had a lot of admiration, not just from Tottenham but from all around the Premier League over the last 2 years. I don't know where Jack Clarke would be in his plans. Hopefully he's in them, because Clarke is a really talented young footballer who hasn't yet played for Leeds this season. So maybe Mourinho will be willing to bring him back in the January transfer window. But I mean, who knows? Mansa saying, I remember having this feeling when Harry Redknapp went, but then look how that turned out. Hopefully this will be the same. Fingers crossed. Will L saying, there's too much money in the sport. The expectations are high at Spurs. We cannot be mid-table anymore. Han saying, this is very surprising. I agree with you on that. Workshop saying, is the elephant in the room that Tottenham just isn't that good, irrespective of the manager? They really played beyond themselves last year, but is this year more accurate? I wouldn't say this year is in any way accurate in terms of what the club is actually capable of. We're way better than this, sitting in 14th. And look, I know we're only 3 points off 5th place, but 14th is not where this club belongs. It really, really isn't. And, you know, maybe we did overachieve over the last couple of years, but with the squad that we have now, anything is possible. And as Mourinho himself believes, he thinks his squad is underachieving. Look, we're going to find out so much over the next couple of days, and the team choice against West Ham on Saturday, I don't know if we can read too much into it, because, you know, he's going to have to take some time to figure out his best team. But there's just so much that we just can't answer, that we can't predict, because of all these changes that not only are going to be happening at the club now, but the changes that I suppose Mourinho has made personally with this new philosophy, this new backroom staff, everything. It's going to be a whole new world for every single one of these people who are going to be taking on this project at Tottenham now. And it's just crazy that the Pochettino project is over. But look, we need to hope that Mourinho does do what we need him to do for this one. Alan Harry is saying, sell the players who don't want to play or put them with the under-21s. Todd saying, did you see Jose talking to Tanganga in the training video just uploaded on the Spurs app? I haven't seen that just yet. But, you know, Tanganga is one who has kind of suffered a bit with a few injuries, but not getting into either the youth team or the first team this season. He is someone who would be a player that Mourinho might like and might give him a chance, because with potentially Oliver and Vertonghen on the way out soon, if it is true that they don't want to be at the club rather than not wanting to play under Mauricio Pochettino, we could see him given a chance. And if that is something they have uploaded on the Spurs app, that could be a sign. As Kostakis says, I hope Tanganga gets a chance. Peter saying, Poch is bad, up Eddie Howe. He thinks Bournemouth are going to beat us. Absolutely baffling. West Ham is going to be a very important game for us in terms of figuring out what's going to happen. But getting back to the Tottenham Stadium, playing Olympiacos next Tuesday, and that team, Bournemouth, it's going to be 2 great games for us. 2 that you would expect us to win, even before Pochettino had gone. The fixtures you would expect us to get 3 points out of. But they're going to be, I imagine there will be protests with regards to Levy and Enoch and all that. But I think we're going to see a massive response on the pitch, and we're going to completely wipe Olympiacos, and Bournemouth especially aside. I mean it, Peter. So look, hopefully that can happen. Luvo saying, can't wait for Saturday. I want to see something on the pitch. The players have been awful. So I just lost that comment there. The players, I want to see how the players are going to play, if there'll be energy and hunger. And we will see a reaction to that. I mean, you always see it with every single club. When a new manager comes in, there is a reaction and there is a big boost. And for all these players, it'll be their first time working with a world-class manager like Jose Mourinho, so there will be a response. Espen Anderson saying Pochettino was always going to be the almost manager. Change had to happen. Mourinho being the man is more doubtful. Is potentially true. Carla saying he will turn Delhi into the new Frank Lampard. I wouldn't be too upset with that. Alexander Hilton saying I thought in Dembele. I'm not sure what he meant there. Maybe Todd and Dembele would turn into Frank Lampard. Go away, Peter. Andrew saying, let's focus on those hammers first. Yeah, and look, as Mourinho said, we need to take every game as it comes now, even though it doesn't bode well for the future. That is the most important game now, and if we can get that first win away from home in 11 months, which is something that should never, ever, ever happen at a club like Tottenham, it would be great to kind of kickstart his time at the club with that sort of with a win away. We know he used to do so well in London derbies when he was at Chelsea, so hopefully this is something that we really can use to kickstart kickstart the time he does have at the club. Kostak is saying let's wreak some havoc in the next few games. And it is a very kind fixture list that we do have coming into this Christmas period. And it could be a really good one for Mourinho to settle in. Obviously, we have West Ham away from home on Saturday. Then we go again next Tuesday. We'll be playing... cheers, Peter. We'll be playing Olympiacos at home next Tuesday. Then it's that game next Saturday against Bournemouth. Then there's going to be a very, very interesting one on the 4th of December, which is 2 weeks from today. We go to Old Trafford, which is going to be a really, really interesting one there. I imagine there'll be a lot of banter between the crowd. And look, it's not going to be an easy fixture. United have had a really good turn in form lately. Won 5 out of the last 6 games. It's one that could really go horribly wrong for us, but obviously we hope it doesn't. It's just going to be so interesting. The football isn't going to be the thing that we'll be focusing on that day. Seeing Mourinho going back there is going to be it's going to be quite an experience. Now after that, going into this festive period, we will be hosting Burnley at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on the 7th of December. That looks like that Wednesday will be that big one away to Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Excuse me. It doesn't seem as though Pochettino will be at Bayern then. As I said, Salihamidzic has said their current caretaker manager, whose name is escaping me, will be in charge until at least Christmas. So it looks like Bayern, it will be their caretaker manager as we play them in the last game of the group stage. And of course, if we beat Olympiacos next week, it'll be a dead game. We'll both be through to the next round. Then after that, we go on the 15th, so that's Saturday. Or that Sunday, we'll be playing Wolves away from home. Then that really hectic week, on the 22nd, we'll be hosting Chelsea. On Boxing Day, we're at home to Brighton, and then 2 days after that, we're away to Norwich. And on New Year's Day, then we're away to Southampton. So those 4 games, and there are 3 games where we should get 3 points. And that hosting Chelsea will be very tough when they're doing quite well under Frank Lampard at the moment. And then it just goes into that January period. We'll be starting with the FA Cup, and as the games start to spread out a bit more, then over the new year, it's a pretty good sort of fixture list for him to really be getting settled in with. And look, as I mentioned, that Premier League table, we are in 14th, but we're only 3 points behind Arsenal in 5th. They've 17, we've 14. I mean, 3 or 4 wins, and you'd imagine we'd be right up there. Obviously, I know other teams are going to pick up points, but if we do go 3-4 games without dropping points, it could completely transform our season. So it's actually Sheffield United who are in 5th, not Arsenal. They're ahead of Arsenal on goal difference. But, if we win and Arsenal lose at the weekend, we're going ahead of them on goal difference. They're at home to Southampton, so you wouldn't imagine they would lose. But, I mean, it's just so tight there. We are 14th, but it's not as bad as it looks. And hopefully it will be a quick change in that, as Mourinho seems to have promised us. Alan Harry saying, do you know what the rest of the world are saying about this appointment? The general consensus seems to be that Tottenham have made a massive mistake from the fans' point of view, but from the from the pundits and the ex-footballers, it seems to be they think it's an amazing move from Tottenham. Now, Jamie Carragher was the first pundit to really talk out about this, saying sacking Pochettino was really out of order, but he was talking again today. And he said, while it was unfair on Pochettino to sack him, this could be a really good move for Tottenham. And looking at Paul Gascoigne, who's been saying he's absolutely delighted with this. Graham Souness saying that the move was almost common sense. The professionals, the pundits, the people who are paid to know about this stuff seem to be really optimistic about Tottenham's chances in the near future. The fans, there was a poll on Sky Sports News, I'm not sure if it was last night or this morning, but 85% of fans, not particularly Tottenham fans, but 85% of fans in general seem to think Tottenham have made a mistake with this move. But I think it's interesting that there is such a big discrepancy there between what the fans think and what the pundits think. But around the world, I'm not too sure, I suppose, outside of England, but Pochettino's reputation still hasn't been tarnished around Europe. They still see him as the man who got Tottenham to the Champions League final, because they wouldn't be paying as much attention to the Premier League as obviously as we would. But with these clubs like United, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, in the past they have had Mauricio Pochettino as their number one next manager, I suppose. And there have been some reports suggesting that he's just now another name in a long list, given the form that Tottenham have shown in the last year or so. but there are other reports to suggest that he is still their number one, because I'd imagine it's because he wasn't given money at Tottenham and he did what he did. So I'm really not sure how this is seen around the world, but the majority of people do see both of these men as amazing managers. But I think the name could be the difference in this, and people may be swaying towards this being a good move for Tottenham. Ian Richardson saying, I'm cautiously excited about this new start while feeling sad for Poch, but I thought I'd ask, which of our players not heading out of contract is most likely to dislike Jose's style at Warrior for Sun? And by style I mean character and way of being, as well as tactics. So which of our players not heading out of contract is most likely to dislike Jose's style? Well, I suppose the style that he has shown in the past, it may suit players like Lucas Moura and Heung-min Son if we are going to play in the counter-attack. They're both really quick players. They do like playing football as well, but if we are going to be utilising that park the bus and counter-attack style of play, it could suit players like Son and Lucas. Harry Kane absolutely wouldn't like it, and I wouldn't blame him for it. I don't think there's many players who would be completely behind adapting this really defensive style, but again, we really don't know what we're going to see from Jose Mourinho at Tottenham Hotspur, and I keep saying that, trying to get it to sink in. Mourinho at Tottenham, it's just not working. But yeah, it's we don't really know what we're going to see. Mansa saying, we went stale, we needed refreshing. The squad was exhausted mentally from the same regime for 5 years with the same squad and a few changes. It was time for a change. The players had nothing left to give, and from the players' point of view, you have to acknowledge as well that they've given absolutely everything to this club for the last 5 years. They've been on, I know it's a lot of money what they've been on, but compared to players around the world in their same position, it's not a lot of money, and they've dedicated a lot of their time, a lot of their careers to this club, and it almost felt that Champions League final was where it was all going to pay off, but obviously because it didn't, it felt like they were right back at square one, and you can see that in the way they have been playing this season. You know, there was a real sort of feeling of we're right back where we started now, and it's where we absolutely are starting again now, because we have a new manager coming in, a new head coach coming in. It's going to be a really interesting couple of months at Tottenham Hotspur, and I don't think there's anything that's going to happen other than us going that way or that way, and I don't think there's going to be any in between where they're going to win trophies and kind of, I wouldn't say be happy this decision was made, but kind of understand why Levy did this, or it's just going to go completely wrong, completely sour, and we're going to get the Jose Mourinho that we saw in his last year at United, his last year at Chelsea, which is just going to ruin this club. But look, that's all I'm going to have time for today. I've been here for just over an hour, almost 700 of you joining me for the stream. As for everyone who has watched, I do really appreciate it. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do that down below now. I do these interactive live streams, plus match previews, reviews, breaking news videos and opinion videos and all that. If you have enjoyed this stream, please give it a big thumbs up as well. I'll be back later in the week, of course, for my preview for this West Ham game. It's interesting what's happening at Tottenham with Jose Mourinho. Don't forget to leave your comments in I posted a video this morning kind of explaining everything that you need to know. So that's, of course, live on my channel now if you need to go watch that. And just leave your comments and opinions. I'll be going through all the comments after the stream. So look, I really do want to hear from you, which is why I do these interactive live streams. Thank you to everyone who has watched. I really do appreciate it. Come on, you Spurs.